A Florida Uber passenger said her driver wouldn't let her out of the car. Let's talk about it. Welcome everybody, Mark here from UberHints. Before we get started, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to please subscribe now and ring that bell icon so you'll know when I post new videos. Before we get started, I just want to say I am really liking my new digs. One of you kind of compared this to being my YouTube man cave, and that really is what it feels like. I feel so comfortable. This is so much better than what I had previously. I know my shelves are a little empty yet behind me, but this is so comfortable. So much so that I do have a new beverage of choice this evening. What I have here is some Bailey's Irish Cream. Oh, that is so good. It's like a grown man's milkshake. Is really what it is. And another thing I want to share with you, I did get a piece of mail today at Post Office Box 141, Wales, Wisconsin 53183-0141. And this was real special as well, because what I got is an invitation to the Entrepreneur's upcoming nuptials. And I think that is just wonderful. Be our guest. They're going to have a Disney-themed wedding. You know that I like Disney. Katie and Kevin. So that should be the Uber-Tuber event of the year. So what is going on in Florida? Well, that's kind of an open-ended question, right? What isn't going on in Florida? But here is such an interesting story. And you know, I like to dissect stories. Sometimes they have to pass the stink test with me. So let's read it. Sarasota woman says Uber driver wouldn't let her out of the car. She says Uber refunded her ride. What a weird subtitle. I mean, wouldn't you think the subtitle would be all about, is she safe? Were arrests made? Was this reported to police? And so on and so forth. But what the subtitle reads is, Uber refunded her ride. To me, that already smacks of something kind of hinky's going on here. But let's read more of the story. A Sarasota woman wants to warn others after what she calls a terrifying ride with Uber. Quotable quote, it seemed like he was muttering to himself that he had a bad vibe about this ride, said Jennifer Peterson. Peterson said she requested an Uber to take her to a restaurant in Sarasota around 6 p.m. Saturday evening. She said her driver acted unusual and was fixated on getting a 5-star review. Okay, this really sounds weird to me. How often do conversations take you there that he's fixated on it? But let's go on, because we're going to come back to that one. He was also saying, when I got to the restaurant, before I got out of the car, I was going to have to show him I gave him a 5-star review, said Peterson. Now, is this really as threatening and intimidating as she's making it seem? Now, please understand, I'm not necessarily questioning her integrity or her ability to tell the truth. It just seems funny, because it seems to me it could be just a socially awkward driver who's maybe making light, or that's the way that he would, have a little fun and say, I really want you to show me that 5-star rating. Because as we've seen here in this channel, people tend to hear what they want to hear. Peterson said the Uber driver pulled off Tamiami Trail in Sarasota and into a business parking lot. I became really uncomfortable when he pulled off the route into a parking lot of a dentist's office. This parking lot was lower than the main road, and there were plants acting as a hedge, and the view was blocked from the road. I was now isolated in the vehicle with this man in a parking spot, said Peterson. Okay, this sounds a little ominous. Peterson said she asked numerous times for him to unlock the door. So it sounds like he may have had the child protection locks on that only the person in the front can open. I immediately went for the door handle to get out. He was occupied on his phone and was muttering to himself a little bit. I had to raise my voice to demand twice that he unlock the door so I could get out. I could not unlock the door on my own, said Peterson. She said the driver eventually unlocked the door and she just started walking. Okay, once again, it doesn't sound like she's making an accusation that threats were made. You know how it is as a driver. Maybe that was the most convenient place to pull in other than the restaurant itself. We don't have enough information, but I kind of suspect that there might be a little bit of, I don't want to say exaggeration necessarily, but I would certainly like to hear the driver's side of the story before they run with it on the 5 o'clock news or 6 o'clock news or 7, whatever time the news comes out in Sarasota. I was in such a panic. I just started walking away from the vehicle, walking to where there were people, safety, and activity. An Uber spokesperson said in a statement, "What's been described as unacceptable. The driver's access to the app has been removed and we are looking into this matter." Wait a minute. What did he really do? She asked him to open the door and he opened the door. He parked in a place that may have seemed a little sketchy to her, but we don't know why he did it. I don't see any deliberate threats being made. Now, were this a family member of mine, someone that I cared for, and this was the side of the story I heard, yeah, I would be concerned. But we only have half the story. It could have been something really scary and spooky. Or it could have been a rider reading way too much into an innocent situation. A driver may have been just talking to himself about the next ride, may have been preoccupied, may have turned one driveway early than he should have to get into the restaurant. There are all kinds of things that really could have happened here. And here is the next thing that really makes me wonder. Peterson encourages other drivers to be aware of safety features on the Uber app and other ride-sharing apps. Now, it says here drivers. Do they mean riders? Why would she encourage drivers to be aware of safety features? Go with your gut. If something seems off, have a preloaded statement like, "Let me out. I forgot something. I have to go back," said Peterson. All right, when I hear things like that, this sounds like an advocate. This sounds not like someone who has been victimized and terrorized. This sounds like someone who wanted to make the news. I would really like to read the police report. I would really like to read the driver's side of the story. There's just a lot here hanging out there that makes me go, I don't know. I am not making an accusation, an assumption, nothing like that. I'm just saying something doesn't feel right. What do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. You know what else I love? I love the way that this room is set up. Now look at that. I can put my hands in front of me. I'm hardly seeing any shadows. I think that this is just great. If you can't tell, I am tickled with my new studio area, and it's only going to get better. All right, that is page 1. Let's take a look at page 2, because I'm not going to read this whole story. This one comes to us from CNN, and it's just more of the same. Dastardly Dara says that he wants to be the Amazon of rideshare. But there are some things stuck into this story that I think are interesting. I'd like to hear what you think. So I'm just cutting away into certain paragraphs. Now they're talking about the app and how the app can do so much more than just hail an Uber ride. To see nearby bikes and scooters, Uber users had to previously click a small button and be sent to a secondary screen. Uber's effort to make e-bikes and e-scooters more prominent may encourage users to take them more often, especially for short trips. Uber's competitor Lyft achieved record bike share ridership in New York after integrating bikes into its apps this spring. Now, record bike share ridership. What exactly does that mean? It's so new. I mean, record ridership, if you only had 10 of them last week and you get 11 this week, that would be record, right? It's just better than you had in the past. So saying terms like record bike share ridership really doesn't mean a whole lot. Now, here's what I love. How Uber always wants to spin things so it sounds like it's so good for the drivers. The potential shift may prove popular with Uber drivers who generally prefer longer, more profitable trips where profits tend to be larger. Okay, I love the way that people write. There's CNN, who generally prefer longer, more profitable trips where profits tend to be larger. Isn't that what more profitable means, CNN? But it's just like they're saying, we want to do everything we can to take work away from the drivers. Matter of fact, we don't even want them sitting their butts in your car. We want them sitting their butts on our bicycles and our scooters. But this is a good thing for drivers. I just love the way they twist this. Uber expanded into car alternatives in 2018 when it bought the bike share startup Jump and then launched its own e-scooters in cities the same year. Users in Denver can compare public transportation routes on buses and trains throughout the app and buy a ticket. All right, so they are now basically Ticketmaster, right? Where they will send you, you can buy your bus ticket or whatever through the app, and then they take a chunk. Now this next sentence, this is golden. Uber is also developing flying cars. It expects passengers to opt for autonomous electric flying vehicles because of low prices and faster travel times. Low prices. Autonomous flying vehicles. What a crock. Do you really think the FAA is going to allow flying vehicles with no pilot at all? Are we expected to buy into this? Lime is currently the only e-scooter competitor Uber will promote in its app. Now, here, this next statement is important. Uber invested in the company in July 2018. It will receive a percentage of each transaction when Lime riders book trips through Uber. Okay, so Uber owns part of it. Uber's getting a chunk of it. Uber views Lime not as a competitor, but a service provider. Well, duh. If you own it and you're getting a chunk of the action, how can you view it as a competitor? I don't know if this is stupidity on CNN's part or if they are swallowing the Uber line, hook, line, and sinker. And speaking of swallowing, this is so refreshing. We're thinking about what's best for consumers ultimately, he said. How do we make sure they can see the closest and best transportation options? Now, when they say he says, they're talking about an Uber spokesperson. I just think that this story, and again, I was reading snippets of it because I don't see any point to bore you any further and read the whole story. But those little snippets that come to us from CNN, it is just like Uber sending out every possible talking point that they can possibly think of and see if the media is going to bite on one of them, right? So we see scooters for rent all over the place. Here in Milwaukee, they have them. They're called bubblers. Their blue bikes are called bubblers, and you go, I don't know how they work. If you swipe a credit card or whatever and you take off of them, I don't know how you return them. I have no idea of any of that. But I know a lot of things. One thing that I know, I would never use these things. First of all, one of the reasons that people want to take Uber, I don't know where I'm going. When I get to a town I'm not familiar with, I don't want to be on a scooter. I want to get in the back seat and let someone else do the driving. You know, a Greyhound used to say, leave the driving to us. That's what I'm looking for. I want an Uber when I'm coming to and from the airport. I have bags. I have stuff in my vehicle. Very seldom would I want a vehicle when a scooter would do the job. It's not saying that it's not going to work. It's not going to be beneficial. It's not going to have a little bit of a niche. That's right, I said niche. Some of you say niche. I say niche. I don't say it won't have its niche, but I can't see it, biting into the cars a lot. Who else do we have? We have drunks. Can you imagine a drunk on a scooter? Some cities, like I know Ocean City, Maryland, because one of our viewers had mentioned it, has outlawed the scooters. So I see a lot of issues with the scooters and bikes. I see major issues with the so-called flying cars. One thing they didn't mention in here is the autonomous self-driving cars. How often do we have to talk on that one? I do think they'd be really cool for private ownership. I think there's a really neat place for them. When I do my trips from Wisconsin to Florida, it would be great to kick it into autopilot. As long as I'm sitting in the front seat and, head down the road. That would be fantastic. I could get a little rest, right? I don't have to continually have my hand on the steering wheel and dealing with traffic. But having someone in the back seat of a car that has no driver at all scares me to death. So those are the lightweight things now that are going on in the Uber world. I thought after the last couple of days when people were so intense and so angry at the thought that they should actually be considerate of other people, it was such an offensive thing for me to suggest that we should actually try to be considerate and have manners, that I thought we'd go for something that would be far less controversial. What do you think? Anything fishy in that story of the lady who apparently wanted to make it sound like she was kidnapped without saying she was kidnapped? Or am I being insensitive? And what about Uber? Nothing new is under the sun. Why are they releasing these types of stories? I'd love to hear what you have to say. As always, I encourage you to leave your comments down below. Please like and share the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring that bell icon so you'll know when I post new videos. And I have something on the way. I did order my Let's Talk About It Uber stickers. They look pretty cool. I'm excited about it. They're supposed to arrive on Friday. And they are going to be going out to my Patreon sponsors. I think some of the people in chat that, I always feel kind of guilty when people are so generous with the super chat. So I'm going to be rewarding them with stickers as well. What else I'm going to do with the stickers, I have no idea, but I think it'll be fun. So you can look forward to that. Probably, if they arrive when they're supposed to, the holidays may throw that thing off. But they're supposed to deliver Friday, and you may see it in our Saturday morning live stream. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I'm Mark with UberHints. You can leave now. Show's over.